Okay, hey everybody. So I wanted to come in and talk to you about the misting painting process. Last time I did the video, I didn't explain how. I mentioned it and then I didn't go and explain. So let's explain this time. So what I use, first of all, I use a water mixable oil, and I use Cobra, and I can put down below where I order it from. I really love this paint. It moves so nicely. But I will combine that, and the reason I get away with it is because it's a water mixable paint oil. If it was just regular oil, I wouldn't get away with this process. So I'm using an acrylic medium satin varnish to create the mist. So I'll mix some satin varnish with a little bit of white paint and then a little bit of water. So I'll use a little bowl, and I get a consistency of it needs to be thin enough so that you see through a little bit. It will take away some color, but you can see through it. And it can't be loose enough that it's dripping, because at this point in this stage of the painting, you don't want it to drip down, because then you're going to have to rework where you're at, and you have to do it pretty quickly, because at this point, when it starts to do some dripping, you will have a hard time covering those lines that happen. So you got to be careful about that. However, this particular satin varnish is by Master's Touch, and I've never used it before. I just thought, oh, I'll give it a try. But it's a little bit strange. So I don't know, if you guys use Master Touch out there, you'll know. I just have never used it before. And it is coming out like, see, look, it's like gloopy. It's all blobby. But it works really well for the misting process. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to repeat this particular thing again, but that's what you do. You use some varnish. I like satin. I don't want it to be glossy because I will varnish it again with gloss. So I use the satin, and I work it with several different kinds of brushes. So it depends on how thick I want it to go on. So I'll use this brush to get some circular motion to build up. So like right here, and it's a little bit hard to tell on camera, but up here, this is built in more down like this. And then again up here. And then over here, this is more paint than varnish, because I want that to kind of come out. The next step is I use a brush like this to smooth it down, take the edges off. Always start with it dry. This has to be dry to do that. Otherwise, you're just taking everything off. So I use it dry, but you should not touch the canvas very hard. Just so soft, like you can hardly even know you're doing it. But then it's lifting off some of the paint. So it's going to be attaching to the bristles. And it dries pretty quickly. And then you can't use this brush anymore, so you'll have to pop that in the water and get another one like it. So I go through quite a few in a painting session of these. So I have quite a few of these on hand, and all different sizes. And so the bigger sizes, you're going to get a bigger brush from. Little, you're going to get these little spots right in here like that. So yeah, that's how you do that. And then coming down, I'm still doing that, and you probably saw that in some of the painting videos, even though I do speed those up so that we can keep them in a reasonable time for you to watch. Otherwise, it'd be, I'm, 3-4 weeks on this so far, so you'd get really bored. Anyway, so I do the same thing here. Is I'll bring in some of that mistiness, and then I'll kind of softly bring it across here. This is still moist enough that actually I'm moving the paint just a little bit. I used to really need to do a painting all at once, to sit down and do it all. And I don't do that anymore. And that's the nice thing about oils, is it does make you slow down. Acrylics, you're going fast. And I used to do acrylics, and I used to like to do it really fast. But now I really do like to be able to step back. It's so important to take a little time to see where your painting is going and see where, if that's where you want it to go. Now, like I've said before, this is a semi-abstract landscape, which is one of my very favorite things. And so I have to step back a lot with that, because I tend to get, when you're up close, I tend to get stuck in the details. For example, I put in this clump of trees right here, but I don't want them to stand out a lot. But if I'm standing really close to it, I'm like, oh, it needs a little leaf, a little leaf, needs some branches. And so the next thing you know, they're like the focal point, and I don't want them to be. They need to have their little quiet moment over here. So, and then I will be bringing this misty here around the front of those trees, and that'll help them sit there nicely. Now, in real life, on this, in this range, right about here is I-25 that goes north and south in New Mexico. But you can't really see it from the Bosque unless a big semi truck goes by, and then he looks like a little toy car driving down the road. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. But there's this ridge right there. That's how these mountains build, is you've got the higher mountains, and then you've got starting to get some cliffs and some things that really are well covered with a lot of sagebrush and a lot of bushy stuff. So it kind of just blends in the distance in color wise. So I am trying to stick to a certain shape for that range, this certain line right here, and then start building things coming down into where we are down here in the Bosque. And the Bosque is down by where the river runs through back behind here. So I won't be including the river, but the Bosque also has little, it's like it's a flooded range basically of fields full of lovely grain for the birds that come through, the cranes, the geese, ducks, everything that flies through. This is their oasis spot. They're going south. They got a long ways to go, and it's dry north, dry south. So this is their spot. So there's like flooded little lakes all over the place. So I may be bringing that in, or I may be bringing in a trail. There are two ways in Bosque. So there's these trails back here behind the lakes, and that's where you can take your dogs for hiking. So we've done a lot of hiking back that way. When you are in the bosque part where the water is, the dogs have to stay in the car, which is fine. We don't want them out there bothering the birds at all. We want to see the birds. So I haven't decided if I'm going to be bringing in a water feature in here in a abstract way, or if I'm going to stick with a trail. Haven't figured that out yet. So pretty soon I will be working on that. And I had to bring my bench in, my seat in, because now I need to be at this perspective. And I'm painting this directly on the wall because it is such a large piece. And I don't really have a space to do this on an easel. So I can't really move it up and down. So I have to move up and down. So I'm really getting into where I have to make some decisions. And I'm pretty close to seeing the final piece of it. And so I'm excited to get moving. So I'm going to keep going. And you guys have a beautiful day. Remember, be gentle with yourselves. There's only one you. And while you're at it, be gentle with everybody else too.